linear system by substitution, the first thing that you need to do, is you need to isolate one variable. So what I mean by that, it's okay if you go, what the heck does that mean? What I mean by isolate one variable just means X or Y, right, guys? And when I say I want you to isolate it, what that means is I want you to get it alone on one side of an equation, so that the equation either says Y equals something or X equals something. Now let me show you what I mean by that. If we have 4x plus y, and again, feel free to write all of this down in your notes. You can write down that the first thing to do when solving a linear system by substitution is isolate one variable. So if we have 4x plus y equals 1, and I want to get one of my variables alone on one side of the equation, I can just, hey, no, sorry, Pop, I'm busy. Dad's teaching. I can just subtract 4x from each side, and I now get y equals 1 minus 4x. I have now isolated the y variable. You guys see what I mean by isolating one variable? When I say I want it alone on one side of the equation, is that clear?
Reggie.
Yes.
Why you subtracted 4x from each side, and so then that cancels out the whole x on the left side.
Yes. So if I divided by 4, right? Because this is 4 times x. 4x is 4 times x, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that there's 4 x's. If I divide by 4, it leaves just x, right?
Okay.
But if I subtract 4 x's, it leaves nothing on that side. Does that make sense?
You're just left with y.
So then I'm just left with y.
Okay.
And on the other side, I'm left with 1 minus 4x, right? And that was my goal, right, Oliver? I wanted to make sure I had just y on one side.
Yeah.
So
but wait. Why does the minus on the 4x translate into the equation? Shouldn't you be subtracting 4x from 1?
I am. 1 minus 4x.
Oh, but you can't do that because you don't know what x is. So you just put it in that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I know that y equals 1 minus 4x. I don't know what x and y are yet. Anytime when I say do it from both sides, do something to both sides, Oliver, you can just write it like this. For example, if I had just done 1 minus 4 instead of 4x, you can still just write y equals 1 minus 4. But when we simplify our terms, right, we know what 1 minus 4 is. So we can just turn that into -3.
Yeah. Okay.
In the same way, when I subtract 4x from both sides, you can just write 1 minus 4x. So this is the first thing you need to do when you solve a linear system by substitution, is isolate one variable. You guys mind if I erase this? So we turned this into 1 equals 1 minus, or y equals 1 minus 4x. So I wrote it over here. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm going to erase this. So once we've isolated one variable, what we can do is, if we know that y equals 1 minus 4x, we can then replace our y in the other equation with 1 minus 4x. So we would then get 2x plus 3, and instead of 3y, we do 3 times 1 minus 4x. And we know that that equals -7. Does everyone see what I did there? I took what y equals, which is 1 minus 4x, and I replaced y with that in the other equation. Now, there is only an x variable. There is no longer any y variable written here, which means I can now solve for x and get an actual number for x. So I'm going to do that for you guys now. 2x, just going to leave. I want to multiply 3 by 1 minus 4x. So first I'm going to multiply 3 by 1, which gives me 3. And then I'm going to multiply 3 by negative 4x. That's just going to give me negative 12x. Okay? So I now have... Yes?
So you multiplied 3 by negative 4?
Negative 4x.
Negative 4x.
So it becomes negative 12x.
Okay.
So now I have 2x plus 3 minus 12x equals negative 7. Okay? Now I can combine. I have two like terms I can combine. I have a 2x and a negative 12x. 2x minus 12x is negative 10x. So I can actually go 3 minus 10x equals negative 7. All I did was combine my 2x and my negative 12x. So 3 minus 10x equals negative 7. Now I can, remember I'm trying to solve for x. I want to get x alone. So I'll subtract 3 from both sides. That's going to give me, I'm going to write it over here, negative 10x equals negative 10. I can now divide both sides by negative 10 to get x alone. What's negative 10 divided by negative 10? 1. So x equals 1. I have now solved the linear system for x. Okay? You guys want me to leave this up? Or could I move to the next step? If you're still not 100% sure what I did, don't worry. I'm going to be here all class. We can continue practicing this together. Okay, so now we know x equals 1.
Wait, Reggie?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be negative 2x minus 12x equals negative 10x? And then, so it's negative 7 plus... Oh, okay, never mind.
You got it?
Yeah, I thought it was positive 7, that's why.
Okay, no worries. So I am going to erase this. So we know that x equals 1 because we had just solved for x. Now I'm just going to take the fact that x equals 1 and I'm going to plug 1 in for x in my first equation. 4 times 1 plus y equals 1. 4 times 1 is 4. So I have 4 plus y equals 1. I'm now going to subtract the 4 from each side because I'm trying to get y alone. On the left side, I now just have y. And on the right side, I have 1 minus 4, which is negative 3. Y equals negative 3. I have now solved the linear system by substitution. Notice that my points 1 and negative 3 are also the coordinates of the point of intersection of the two lines. You get the same answer whether you solve by graphing or by a linear system. Remember, when you're solving by substitution, the first thing is to isolate one variable. I give you guys 3 to solve by substitution on the bottom of today's assignment. And in the first 2, the variable is already isolated, so you don't have to do that on your own. In the last one, it is not, so you'll need to isolate the variable first. I want to let everyone start on the assignment because there's 40 minutes left in class, and I want to make sure you guys have enough time to do it. It's on ManageBack. It's called Linear Systems Classwork, the Paradigm Project. I am going to stay here and continue working through stuff, but I'm just giving you guys a chance to jump on that assignment right now, okay? In the assignment, I'm going to share my screen. First, we're going to use a real-life example of solving a linear system. So, we have a little explanation here, and we are finding out at what point will it be cheaper to buy a $35 stove that costs less fuel per day than to not buy the stove at all and pay more per day. That is just another way of saying we're going to find two equations and we're going to find where they meet, as in we are going to solve the linear system. You're going to be able to first do it by graphing, and then I want you guys to show me how you do it by substitution, and then I have 3 practice problems. That's the entire assignment, okay? Do you guys have questions for me?
Yes.
Okay.
This is more of a conceptual question rather than like a literal math problem. But like, why would we use substitution if we could use graphing? Because it's way easier.
The easiest, most obvious explanation is sometimes you get like long decimals.
Okay.
Where they meet. And it gets really obnoxious to try and find that point of intersection by graphing.
Okay.
When we're using Desmos, it'll even give you the long examples, right? But that's why.
Okay.
Also, you're going to, in general, use substitution a lot in math. Just knowing how to do this, knowing that what one variable equals, and then plugging it back into another equation. Any other questions? I will work through the entire assignment with you guys here. I'm happy to do that. I'm just sending you guys to it now because I want you to have a chance to start it.
When's it due?
The assignment? I have it due at midnight. If you need an extension, email me. Okay? Remember, we're going to... Oh, sorry. Before everyone goes, I forgot to mention this. Test corrections for the last unit. So if you want to do it, you have to schedule that with me during one of my office hours. And it needs to be done before Friday, June 5th, because I have to have all your grades done by June 8th. You guys don't get the grades till the 18th, but I have to have graded everything by the 8th. So if you want to do test corrections for the last unit, you need to schedule it with me before Friday, June 5th. The way it works, there are 20 total points. It's an oral exam. I've already given one out. So you come to office hours and I just give you one problem at a time and you do them. It's a 20-point exam. If you get 18 out of 20 on it, and again, it's open note and everything. If you get 18 out of 20 on it, you get a 4. If you ace it, you get a 5. Is that clear? Right on. Okay. So start on the assignment. Come to me with questions. I'll work through all of it with you. I'm going to stop recording. How are your hands looking?